Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling smaller than she had ever felt in her life. The Galactic Council chamber was built to make visitors feel insignificant. It worked perfectly. Above her, 47 alien species sat in their designated seats, arranged in a great circle that rose toward the distant ceiling. Some looked like insects with too many legs, others glowed with their own light. A few were just clouds of gas held together by force fields. Chen had studied them all, learned their names, their cultures, their histories. None of that preparation made this moment easier. The High Chancellor Zorvath spoke. His voice came through the translation device in Chen's ear, turning his alien sounds into perfect Mandarin. Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth, humanity has been part of our galactic community for 50 standard years. You have seen the benefits of membership. Your people traveled to 1,000 worlds. You trade with civilizations that were ancient when your species learned to make fire. You have grown rich beyond your ancestors' dreams. Chen nodded. It was all true. First contact had changed everything for humanity. Poverty was nearly gone. Disease was almost defeated. Humans lived on Mars, on Europa, on stations orbiting distant stars. The galaxy had given them so much. Now, Zorvath continued, it is time for humanity to pay its fair share. Every civilization contributes to the common good. Every species pays tribute to maintain the peace that allows us all to prosper. The word tribute hung in the air like a weight. Zorvath touched a control, and a holographic document appeared in front of Chen. She read it quickly, her heart sinking with every line. 15% of Earth's entire economic output, 30% of all rare minerals from Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, 1 million humans per year to serve in Council military forces for a minimum of 20 years each. This is not negotiable, Zorvath said. His tone was not cruel. It was simply matter-of-fact, as if he was explaining gravity or the speed of light. Every member species contributes. Some pay more, some pay less, depending on their size and capabilities. This is humanity's share. Chen looked around the chamber. The other ambassadors watched her with various expressions. The Krillix clicked their mandibles together in what she had learned was amusement. The crystalline lumini flickered with colors that meant sympathy. The amphibious Quellen blinked their 3 eyes slowly, which meant they were bored. She knew their histories. Every single one of them had once stood where she stood now. Everyone had been given the same choice, and everyone had agreed to pay. What if we refuse? Chen asked. Her voice sounded loud in the quiet chamber. Several ambassadors made sounds that the translator didn't bother converting. Apparently the concept of refusal was so ridiculous it didn't need translation. Zorvath tilted his large head. He looked like a mantis mixed with a dragon, standing 3 meters tall. No one refuses, Ambassador. The tribute system has maintained peace for 200,000 years. Before the Council, the galaxy was chaos. Thousands of species fought endless wars. Planets burned. Entire civilizations vanished. The tribute system ended all of that. Everyone pays. Everyone benefits from the peace, but what if we refuse? Chen repeated. Now Zorvath's tone changed slightly, still patient but with an edge of steel beneath it. Then the Council would be forced to ensure compliance. We have peacekeeping fleets for exactly this purpose. They would come to Earth. They would take what is owed. Resistance would be noted in your species file. Future tribute demands would increase to cover the cost of enforcement. Your trading privileges might be restricted. Your people might find themselves unwelcome on certain worlds. He paused, letting that sink in. And if resistance continued, if humanity proved unable to accept its role in galactic society, then the Council would be forced to implement direct administration of Earth for the safety and stability of all. The translator was very good, but Chen understood what direct administration meant. Occupation, conquest, the end of human independence. I need time to consult with my government, Chen said. Of course. Zorvath made a gesture that might have been a smile. You have 24 standard hours. Return here at this time tomorrow with your agreement to the tribute terms. And if I don't agree? You will, Zorvath said simply. Everyone does. Chen turned to leave, but the ambassador from the Lumini species pulsed with light, getting her attention. Through the translator, she heard, "We resisted once, long ago. We thought we could stand alone. The Council was patient with us. They gave us time. Then they gave us an example. They chose one of our colony worlds, a small one with only 10 million lumini. They sterilized it from orbit. Not to be cruel, they said. simply to show us the cost of refusing our responsibilities. The Lumini ambassador flickered with colors that meant sadness. We paid the tribute the next day. Our species has thrived since then. We are grateful the council taught us wisdom. Chen felt sick. They killed 10 million of your people for not paying taxes? They maintained galactic peace, the Lumine corrected. One world sacrificed so that thousands of worlds could remain safe. It was logical, necessary. We understand that now. Chen left the chamber in a daze. Her shuttle was waiting, the small Earth vessel looking like a toy next to the massive ships from other civilizations. As she boarded, she saw other ambassadors watching her. Some with pity, some with curiosity, none with hope. The flight back to the human embassy station took 2 hours. Chen spent the entire time reviewing the tribute demands, running calculations, trying to find some way to make them work. There wasn't one. The demands would cripple Earth's economy. The military service requirement would devastate families. 1 million people per year, serving 20-year terms. That was 20 million humans in service at any given time. Never mind those who would die in whatever conflicts the Council sent them to fight. But what was the alternative? War with an enemy that had 10,000 warships? Occupation? Genocide? When she arrived at the embassy, the encrypted communication from Earth was waiting. The United Earth government wanted her assessment. They wanted her recommendation. They wanted her to tell them what to do. Chen sat in her office for a long time, staring at the tribute document. 47 civilizations, hundreds of trillions of beings all paying this tribute, all accepting it as the price of peace. 200,000 years of stability. Who was humanity to think they could be different? But then Chen thought about her grandmother, who had lived through Earth's final world war, who had told stories about people who resisted tyrants, who fought for freedom even when freedom seemed impossible. Her grandmother had lived to see humanity united, to see them reach the stars. What would her grandmother say about paying tribute? Chen knew the answer to that. She opened a communication channel to Earth and began to type her report. She included all the facts, all the risks, all the terrible consequences of refusal. Then she added her personal recommendation. She suggested that humanity do something no species had done in 200,000 years. She suggested that humanity say no. The reply from Earth would take time. Chen had 24 hours to wait for a decision that would determine the future of her species. She looked out the window at the stars, at the vast galaxy full of civilizations that had all bent the knee. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn if humans could bend, or if they would break first. Either way, nothing would ever be the same. The emergency session of the United Earth government began exactly 12 minutes after Ambassador Chen's report arrived. Deep beneath Geneva, in a bunker that could survive a nuclear war, representatives from every nation and colony gathered. The chamber was full of worried faces. Premier Okoye of the African Union spoke first. She was a tall woman with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much history. We all read the ambassador's report. The council wants 15% of our GDP, 30% of our minerals, and 1 million of our people every year. For those who haven't done the math, let me help you. That's a permanent force of 20 million humans serving alien interests. That's roughly the same as our total military forces right now. They want to cut our legs off before we can even think about standing, said Chancellor Volkov of the Eurasian Federation. He was a thick man with a voice like grinding stones. This isn't tribute. This is submission. The representative from Mars Colony, a young woman named Sarah Kim, raised her hand. With respect, isn't submission better than extinction? The Lumini lost a whole world for refusing. 10 million dead. We have to be realistic about our chances in a war. Admiral Jackson of the United Earth Defense Force stood up. He was old for a military man with more gray than black in his close-cropped hair. Let me be clear about something. If we fight the Galactic Council, we will lose. Not might lose, will lose. They have 10,000 warships. We have 300. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours in most areas. Their shields are better. Their weapons are stronger. In a straight fight, they would destroy us in a matter of weeks. The chamber fell silent. However, Jackson continued, and every eye turned to him. We won't be fighting a straight fight. If we choose to resist, we activate Protocol Rubicon. Explain, Okoye said. Jackson touched a control, and a holographic display appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed the solar system, Earth at the center with thousands of small dots scattered throughout. For the past 20 years, we've been preparing for the possibility that the galaxy might not be as friendly as it seemed. Every defense platform, every ship, every weapon system we've built has been designed with one purpose: to make any invasion of Earth so costly that it wouldn't be worth the price. He zoomed the display out, showing human ships stationed throughout known space. We've also been making friends. The galaxy has 200 species that aren't part of the Council. They're too small, too weak, too far away to matter to the great powers. We've been trading with them, helping them, building relationships. If we stand up to the Council, we won't stand alone. You're talking about turning the galaxy into a war zone, said Minister Chen of the Pacific Alliance. She was no relation to Ambassador Chen, but they shared the same careful, analytical mind. Even if we survive, millions will die. Our economy will collapse. Everything we've built in 50 years could be destroyed. Yes, Jackson said simply. Finance Minister Abara from West Africa pulled up his own holographic display, showing economic projections. Let me give you the other side of that coin. If we pay this tribute, our economy will also collapse, just differently. 15% of GDP means every human alive gets 15% poorer. Immediately, food prices rise, medicine becomes scarce, the terraforming of Mars stops. The colonies struggle, and that's just year one. He changed the display, showing a timeline stretching forward. Year after year we pay. Generation after generation. Our children grow up knowing that 1 in every 20 of them will be taken to fight alien wars. Our grandchildren won't remember what freedom meant. In 50 years, humanity will be a servant species. Comfortable servants, perhaps. Well-fed servants. But servants nonetheless. Premier Okoye looked around the chamber. So our choices are: war will probably lose or slow death of everything that makes us human. Are there any other options? We could negotiate, suggested Ambassador Zhao, who had experience in diplomatic matters. Try to reduce the tribute, spread it out over more years, find some compromise. Admiral Jackson shook his head. The Lumini tried to negotiate. So did the Krillix. So did every species that ever sat in that chamber. The Council doesn't negotiate. They set the terms. You accept or you suffer. Then we're talking about pride, Sarah Kim said. Her voice was frustrated. We're talking about fighting a war we can't win because we're too proud to bend. No. The voice came from the back of the chamber. An old man stood up slowly. Dr. James Okonkwo, the historian who had written the definitive chronicle of Earth's unification. We're not talking about pride. We're talking about precedent. Everyone turned to look at him. Every tyranny in human history made the same argument. Okonkwo continued. Submit or die. Pay or suffer. Obey or face destruction. And every time humans had to choose, we split into 2 groups. One group did the math. They calculated the costs. They chose survival. The other group did something the math said was impossible. They fought anyway. He walked slowly to the center of the chamber, his steps careful but his voice strong. Sometimes the ones who fought lost. Sometimes they died. But sometimes, just sometimes, they won. And every freedom we have, every right we enjoy, came from the people who refused to do the math, who said no when no was impossible. But this isn't human history, Minister Chen said. This is the galaxy. The rules are different, are they? Okonkwo asked. The Council has maintained power for 200,000 years through fear and force. They tell every new species the same lie, that resistance is futile, that submission is wisdom, that slavery is peace. And for 200,000 years, species have believed them. But what if someone finally called that bluff? Chancellor Volkov leaned forward. You think it's a bluff? I think every empire looks invincible until someone has the courage to hit it, Okonkwo said. I think the Council has gotten comfortable. They expect submission because they've always received it. They've never had to face someone who truly doesn't care about the cost. Premier Okoye stood up. We need to vote. But before we do, I want everyone to understand what we're voting on. If we say yes to the tribute, humanity survives. We'll be less than we are, but we'll be alive. Our children will have futures, even if those futures are limited. She paused, looking at every face in the chamber. If we say no, we might all die. Earth might burn. Everything we've built might turn to ash. But if we survive, if we somehow win, then humanity stays free. And maybe, just maybe, we give hope to every other species in this galaxy that dreams of freedom. The vote was taken by voice, each representative standing and stating their choice. It took an hour. When it was done, the result was clear, not unanimous. There were voices for submission, for survival, for the logical choice. But the majority spoke with one voice. They chose freedom over certainty. They chose the fight they couldn't win over the peace that would destroy them slowly. Admiral Jackson immediately activated Protocol Rubicon. Across the solar system, defense platforms powered up. Ships began moving to battle positions. Marines prepared for deployment. Humanity's entire military force, built over 50 years of peace, prepared for a war that might end their species. The message was sent to Ambassador Chen. Earth had made its choice. Return to the Council. Deliver humanity's answer. As the representatives left the chamber, Dr. Okonkwo remained, staring at the holographic display of Earth. Sarah Kim approached him. Do you really think we can win? The old historian smiled sadly. I think winning isn't the only thing that matters. I think there are worse things than dying. I think living on your knees watching your children grow up as slaves passing on a legacy of submission, that's worse than any death. But do you think we can win? She pressed. Okonkwo looked at her with ancient eyes. I think humanity has a talent for doing impossible things, and I think the galaxy is about to remember why that's terrifying. Ambassador Chen Wei walked into the Galactic Council chamber for the second time. The chamber looked the same as before. The 47 species sat in their places. High Chancellor Zorvath waited in the center, patient as stone. But something was different this time. Chen could feel it. The other ambassadors seemed more alert, more focused. They all wanted to see how this would end. Would humanity be the first species in 200,000 years to refuse? Or would they bend like everyone else? Chen carried a small data crystal, no bigger than her thumb. It contained humanity's answer. Ambassador Chen, Zorvath said, have you returned with humanity's agreement to the tribute terms? I have returned with humanity's answer, Chen replied. Her voice was steady, though her heart hammered in her chest. Excellent. Zorvath gestured to the transmission pedestal in the center of the chamber. It was an ancient device, older than most civilizations. Every species that joined the council placed their acceptance there. Please present your agreement in the traditional manner. Chen walked to the pedestal. She placed the data crystal in the slot. The crystal glowed, and its contents appeared on every holographic display in the chamber. The word appeared in every language, every script, every form of communication known to the galaxy. No, for a moment, there was absolute silence. Then the chamber exploded with sound. Some species made clicking noises. Others roared. The Krillix buzzed their wings in what might have been shock or anger. The lumini pulsed with colors that meant confusion. Zorvath stared at the word. He tilted his head as if he didn't understand what he was seeing. This must be an error. A translation mistake. It's not an error, Chen said. Humanity declines to pay tribute to the Galactic Council. We will remain part of the galactic community as equals, or we will leave it entirely. But we will not submit. The Krillix ambassador spoke, his voice buzzing with anger. You understand what you're saying? You're choosing destruction over prosperity, death over life. We're choosing freedom, Chen said. Zorvath recovered his composure. His face, alien as it was, showed something like pity. Ambassador Chen, please. Think about this. Think about your people. We don't want to harm humanity. We want you to join us, to be part of something greater than yourselves. The tribute is not punishment. It's responsibility. It's the price every civilization pays for peace. You call it peace, Chen said. We call it extortion. Now Zorvath's expression changed. The pity vanished, replaced by cold authority. Very well. The Council recognizes that humanity has refused its obligations. As per Council law, a peacekeeping fleet will be dispatched to Earth to ensure compliance. Ambassador Chen, you have one final opportunity to reconsider. Withdraw your refusal. Agree to the tribute terms, and this unfortunate situation can be resolved peacefully. No, Chen said again. Zorvath nodded slowly. So be it. The Council votes on military action. The vote was swift. 47 species, 47 votes in favor. Even the ones who had seemed sympathetic voted yes. They had no choice. The system had worked for 200,000 years. It would work again. The decision is made, Zorvath announced. The peacekeeping armada will depart for Earth within 6 hours. They will take control of your world. Remove your current government and establish direct council administration until humanity learns to fulfill its responsibilities. Ambassador Chen, you are free to return to Earth, though I suspect you won't receive a warm welcome when you arrive. But Chen didn't move. She touched her communication device, and suddenly her voice was broadcasting not just to the council chamber, but to every ship, every station, every world within range. High Chancellor Zorvath speaks of peace, Chen said. But let me tell you what his peace looks like. The Lumini refused to pay tribute once. The council sterilized one of their worlds. 10 million dead. Not soldiers. Not fighters. Just ordinary people who wanted to be free. That's the council's version of peace. Zorvath stood up, anger in his movements. I dare to tell the truth, Chen interrupted. The council calls it tribute. We call it what it is. You're running a protection racket on a galactic scale. Pay us or we'll hurt you. Pay us or we'll destroy you. That's not peace. That's tyranny with better marketing. She turned to address not just the council, but everyone listening across the galaxy. For 200,000 years, species have submitted because they thought they had no choice. Because they believed the council was too strong, too vast, too eternal to resist. But the council forgot something important. They forgot that every empire, no matter how powerful, rests on a foundation of fear, and fear only works until someone stops being afraid. Enough, Zorvath roared. You seal your fate with every word. Our fate was sealed the moment you demanded we kneel, Chen replied. But here's what the council doesn't know. Here's what will surprise you. Humanity isn't running. We're not hiding on Earth waiting for your fleet to arrive. She pressed another button on her device. Suddenly, the chamber's displays lit up with tactical information. Ship positions, fleet deployments, strategic assets. The Council's defense network showed thousands of human vessels moving into position, but they weren't surrounding Earth. They were scattered across the galaxy, positioned between Council forces and the smaller, non-aligned species. We've spent 50 years making friends, Chen said. The species you ignore, the ones too small to pay tribute, too weak to matter. We've been trading with them, helping them, building alliances, and now we're offering them a choice. Stand with us, or watch what happens when someone says no to the Council. The displays showed more ships appearing, not human ships, smaller vessels from dozens of species that most Council members had never heard of. Hundreds of them, thousands. None had powerful weapons. None had advanced shields, but they were there standing witness. You can destroy us, Chen continued. You have the power. But you'll do it in front of the entire galaxy. Every species will watch you burn Earth because we refuse to be your slaves. And then they'll know the truth. They'll know that your peace is just another word for submission. Your order is just another word for control. Zorvath's voice was cold as space. You think this changes anything? You think a few primitive species with antique ships will stop the Council? No, Chen admitted. But they'll remember. Every species watching will remember that someone stood up to you. That someone said no. And once that happens, once species start thinking that resistance is possible, your empire of fear starts to crumble. She walked toward the exit, but paused at the doorway. Oh, and one more thing. Earth's nuclear arsenal, our city-killer missiles, the ones you probably didn't think we'd be stupid enough to actually use. They're armed and targeted at every Council homeworld. You can kill us, but we're taking you with us. The chamber erupted again. Some species called for Chen's immediate arrest. Others demanded verification of the human threat. The Lumine pulsed with colors that meant terror. Zorvath raised his hand for silence. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. You're bluffing. You wouldn't commit mutual genocide. Chen smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. You're probably right. But are you certain enough to bet your entire civilization on it? Because we are. That's the difference between us, High Chancellor. You've been comfortable for 200,000 years. You've forgotten what it's like to have nothing to lose. We haven't. She left the chamber. Behind her, the Council dissolved into chaos. Some called for immediate attack. Others urged caution. Some suggested negotiation, though that word hadn't been spoken in the chamber for millennia. As Chen's shuttle departed from the station, she watched the Council's fleet begin to mobilize. 10,000 warships, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, all heading toward Earth. She had done what she came to do. She had delivered humanity's answer. She had shown the galaxy that the impossible was possible, that someone could say no and mean it. Now came the hard part. Now came the war. The Council's armada arrived at the edge of the solar system, 3 days after humanity's refusal. 10,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Neptune's orbit, their presence like a storm on the edge of forever. Admiral Jackson stood on the bridge of the UNSC Defiance, humanity's flagship. Around him, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. They all knew what was coming. They all knew the odds, but no one spoke of surrender. Enemy fleet detected, reported Lieutenant Morris from the sensor station. Count is 90-47 vessels, mass ranging from frigate class to dreadnoughts. They're holding position at Neptune's orbit. They're waiting for us to run, Jackson said. He was calm, almost peaceful. This was the moment he'd spent 20 years preparing for. Show them we're not running. All ships advanced to engagement range. Humanity's fleet moved forward. 300 ships against nearly 10,000. On paper, it was suicide. In reality, it was worse than suicide. But the human vessels advanced anyway, forming a defensive sphere around Earth and Mars. Commander Sarah Kim, now aboard the destroyer Swift Justice, watched the tactical display with growing dread. The Council ships were organizing themselves with mechanical precision. Perfect formations, optimal firing solutions, everything by the book. They fight like they've already won, her tactical officer observed. They have won, Kim replied. They just don't know we're not trying to win. We're trying to make them pay. The Council's fleet commander, a Varathian named Korseth, broadcast on all frequencies. His translated words came through crisp and clear. Human vessels, you are in violation of Galactic Council law. Stand down immediately. Surrender your weapons and prepare to receive peacekeeping forces. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force, Admiral Jackson responded. Council forces, you are hereby ordered to withdraw from the solar system. This is sovereign human territory. You have no authority here. We are the authority, Korseth replied. We are order. We are peace. You will submit, or you will be pacified. Then I guess you'll have to pacify us, Jackson said. He closed the channel and turned to his weapons officer. All ships free to engage. The battle began with mathematics. The Council ships opened fire with weapons that could crack planets. Their targeting computers calculated trajectories with perfect accuracy. Their shields could withstand anything in humanity's arsenal. But humans didn't fight with perfect accuracy. They fought with desperation and creativity. The human ships scattered, breaking formation in ways that no computer would predict. They used gravity assists around Neptune, slingshotting themselves at angles that should have been impossible. They fired missiles that seemed to miss, then curved back around using Neptune's moons for cover. They're not following standard combat doctrine, reported Acrylic's tactical officer on one of the Council ships. Their movements are erratic, illogical. Destroy them, ordered Korseth. But destroying ships that didn't behave logically was harder than it looked. Human vessels would suddenly accelerate when they should retreat. They'd charge directly at ships 10 times their size, then veer off at the last second, leaving mines in their wake. They'd fake damage, play dead, then strike from unexpected angles. The Swift Justice took a direct hit to her port side. Shields failed. Hull breached. 15 crew members died in an instant. Commander Kim felt the ship shudder, heard the alarms, saw the damage reports flooding her screens. Hull integrity at 40%, her engineer reported. Main weapons offline. We're dead in the water. Kim looked at the tactical display. A Council dreadnought was closing in for the kill. She could order the crew to abandon ship. They'd be captured, but they'd live. Instead, she smiled. All remaining power to engines, she ordered. Set collision course with that dreadnought. Her crew stared at her. Commander, that's an order, Kim said. Everyone who wants to live, get to the escape pods now. You have 60 seconds. Most of the crew ran. Some stayed. Kim stayed. She gripped her command chair as the Swift Justice accelerated on her final run. The Council ship tried to evade, but it was too big, too slow. The destroyer struck it amidships, and both vessels vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human ships, damaged beyond repair, turned themselves into weapons. The Council had better shields, better weapons, better everything. But they valued their ships, their crews, their resources. Humans, it seemed, valued victory more than survival. The UNSC Indomitable, flagship of the Third Fleet, took catastrophic damage when 3 Council cruisers caught her in a crossfire. Captain Rodriguez, bleeding from a head wound, looked at his ruined bridge and made a decision. All hands abandon ship, he ordered. Then, as his crew fled to the escape pods, he locked the controls and aimed his dying ship at the Council's command vessel. Korseth saw it coming. He ordered evasive maneuvers, but the Indomitable was too close, moving too fast. The human ship rammed into his flagship, crippled but defiant to the end. Korseth survived. His ship did not. He transferred command to another vessel, shaken by the realization that humans were willing to die to kill even one of his ships. "They're insane," whispered a Lumine officer who witnessed the Indomitable's final charge. "No," Korseth said slowly. "They're committed." There's a difference. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Council was winning. That was never in doubt. Human ships burned. Stations fell. The defense platforms around Mars were reduced to debris. But every victory cost the Council dearly. Then something unexpected happened. Ships began appearing at the edge of the battle. Not human ships. Small vessels from non-aligned species. The ones who had been watching. The ones who had heard humanity's message. They didn't attack. They couldn't. Their weapons were primitive, their shields weak. But they positioned themselves between the human fleet and the Council armada. Thousands of civilian ships creating a wall of witnesses. "What are they doing?" demanded a Council admiral. "They're making us choose," Korseth realized. "Fight through them to reach Earth or withdraw. They're not combatants. We can push through. And be recorded destroying civilian vessels? Have our images broadcast across the galaxy as we slaughter unarmed ships?" Korseth watched the tactical display, understanding the trap humanity had set. That's what they want. They want us to become the monsters. Admiral Jackson, now commanding from a damaged cruiser after the Defiance was destroyed, watched the civilian fleet arrive. He opened a channel to all human forces. "Hold your fire. Let them see. Let the galaxy see what happens next." Ambassador Chen Wei, watching from Earth, broadcast one final message. Not to the Council. To every species in the galaxy. This is what freedom cost. This is what it looks like when someone refuses to kneel. The Council can kill us. They will kill us. But not before everyone sees what they really are. Not before the galaxy knows that their peace is built on fear and death. On his command ship, Korseth stared at the display. He could order the attack to continue. He could destroy Earth, scatter the civilian fleet, complete his mission. He had the power. He had the authority, but he also had doubt. For the first time in 200,000 years, a Council commander doubted. "All ships," he ordered slowly. "Cease fire." The battle stopped. In the sudden silence, humans and aliens alike tried to understand what had just happened. "Sir," his second-in-command asked. "The High Chancellor ordered." "The High Chancellor isn't here," Korseth interrupted. "I am, and I will not slaughter civilians on a broadcast watched by the entire galaxy. I will not make humanity into martyrs. I will not hand them the moral victory they're seeking." He opened a channel to Jackson. "Human Admiral, I'm calling a ceasefire. My fleet will withdraw while both sides reconsider." Jackson, bleeding from a dozen wounds, smiled through the pain. "Acknowledged, Council Commander. We'll be here when you decide to reconsider." The Council fleet began to withdraw, moving back beyond Neptune's orbit. The human fleet, what remained of it, held position. Around them, the civilian ships from dozens of species maintained their vigil. The battle was over. Not won, not lost, just stopped. And in that stopping, everything changed. 3 months after the battle that stopped but didn't end, representatives from 89 species gathered in a new location. Not the Council's grand chamber, but a simple station orbiting Earth. They came to witness history being rewritten. Ambassador Chen Wei stood before them, no longer alone. Beside her were representatives from the species that had stood witness during the battle. Small civilizations, overlooked peoples. The ones the Council had ignored for millennia. High Chancellor Zorvath was there too, but he wasn't in charge anymore. He sat among the other Council members, equal rather than elevated. The days of the Council dictating terms were over. "We gathered to establish new principles for galactic civilization," Chen began. She looked older now. The war, even a short one, had aged her. "The tribute system is ended. No species will be forced to pay for the privilege of freedom." Some of the Council members shifted uncomfortably. The Krillix ambassador clicked his mandibles in displeasure, but none of them spoke in opposition. They couldn't. The galaxy had watched Earth stand up to them, watched humans die rather than submit, and more importantly, watched other species rally to humanity's cause. The old system was broken. Everyone knew it. The question now was what would replace it. The Council will continue to exist, Chen continued, but not as rulers. As arbitrators. As peacekeepers who serve with consent, not through force. Any species may join or leave freely. Any species may call for council aid, but none will be compelled to provide it. This is chaos, Sorvath said quietly. Without the tribute system, without central authority, the galaxy will tear itself apart. There will be wars. There will be suffering. There will be freedom, replied Ambassador Tesh of the Quellan, one of the smaller species that had joined humanity's cause. Perhaps we'll make mistakes with it. Perhaps some will abuse it. But it will be ours to use and ours to learn from. Chen pulled up a holographic document. This is the Compact of Free Worlds. Every species here has reviewed it. It establishes mutual defense, but only for those who choose to join. It creates trade agreements, but with fair terms. It provides for dispute resolution, but through negotiation, not force. She looked at Zorvath. High Chancellor, the Council can join this new compact as equals, or they can maintain their old ways alone. But the tribute system is done. No one else will pay it. Too many have seen that resistance is possible. Zorvath was silent for a long moment. Around him, his fellow council members waited for his response. Finally, he stood. You've destroyed something that maintained peace for 200,000 years, he said. There was no anger in his voice now, just weariness. I hope you can build something better in its place. He placed his hand on the holographic document, signaling the council's acceptance. One by one, the other council members followed. They had no real choice. Their fleets were still powerful, but power meant nothing if no one feared it anymore. The ceremony completed, the representatives dispersed. Chen found herself alone in an observation room, looking out at Earth. The planet showed scars from the battle. Orbital platforms destroyed. Ships lost. 30,000 humans dead. The door opened behind her. Admiral Jackson entered, walking with a cane now. His injuries from the battle had healed, but they'd left their mark. Worth it? He asked, standing beside her. Chen was quiet for a while. Ask me in 100 years. Ask me when we see if this new freedom leads to peace or chaos. Ask me when we know if the price we paid bought anything lasting. That's not fair to yourself, Jackson said. You don't get to see the end of the story. No one does. You just get to choose which direction the story goes. Below them, Earth rotated slowly. Humanity had survived. More than that, they'd changed the galaxy. But change always came with uncertainty. What happens now? Chen asked. Now we see if freedom really is better than slavery, Jackson replied. We see if other species can handle the responsibility we've given them. We see if the galaxy can govern itself without someone holding a gun to its head. And if it can't, Jackson shrugged, then we'll deal with whatever comes. Same as always. Across the galaxy, the ripples of humanity's defiance spread. On Lumini worlds, young beings questioned why their species had submitted so easily. On Krillix hive ships, workers whispered about the humans who chose death over servitude. On 1,000 worlds, species that had paid tribute for generations began to ask, why? Not all the changes were good. Some species used their new freedom to settle old grudges. Small wars erupted in regions where the Council's iron grip had kept peace through fear. Humanity found itself drawn into these conflicts, not as conquerors but as peacekeepers trying to help species who had followed their example. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was the opposite of the Council's orderly system. It was freedom. On Earth, memorials were built for those who died in the battle. 30,000 names carved in stone. Sarah Kim's name was there. Captain Rodriguez's. All the others who had chosen to die free rather than live in chains. Dr. Okonkwo, now very old, stood before one memorial. A young student was with him recording his thoughts for a history project. Do you think it was worth it? The student asked. All those deaths, all that destruction, was saying no to the Council worth the price? Okonkwo smiled, the same sad smile he'd worn in the Council chamber 3 months ago. Let me tell you something about humanity. We're not the strongest species. We're not the smartest. We don't live the longest or build the best ships, but we have one quality that the galaxy had forgotten was valuable. What's that? We remember that some things matter more than survival. Freedom matters. Dignity matters. The right to stand up and say no matters. He looked at the names on the memorial. These people died for an idea. The idea that a civilization built on fear and extortion isn't worth preserving. The idea that freedom, Even if it's messy and dangerous, is better than peaceful slavery. The student was quiet, thinking. Finally, she asked, "What if other species don't agree? What if they think we made things worse? Then they can choose differently," Okonkwo said. "That's the whole point. They can choose. For 200,000 years, the council chose for them. Now they get to choose for themselves. Maybe they'll choose submission. Maybe they'll choose isolation. Maybe they'll choose war. But it'll be their choice." He turned to leave, then paused. "You know what the council's real mistake was? They thought stability was the same as peace. They thought order was the same as justice. They forgot that real peace, lasting peace, comes from people choosing to cooperate, not being forced to submit." "Do you think the new system will work?" Okonkwo laughed, a sound like dry leaves rustling. "I think humanity just bet everything on finding out. I think we've given the galaxy a chance to prove that freedom can work on a cosmic scale. Whether that bet pays off," he shrugged, "that's for your generation to determine." Back on the council homeworld, Zorvath stood in what had once been his seat of power. The great chamber was empty now. The council still met, but in smaller forums, as equals among equals rather than masters among subjects. A young Varathian approached him, one of the new generation that had grown up after humanity's defiance. "The elders say you failed," the young one said. "They say you should have destroyed Earth, made an example of them." Zorvath looked at the empty chamber. "I could have. I had the power. But power isn't the same as wisdom." He turned to the young Varathian. "Your generation will have to learn to lead through cooperation rather than force. Through respect rather than fear. It will be harder. Much harder. Is it better? Ask me in 200,000 years, Zorvath said, echoing Chen's words. Ask me when we see if this new galaxy can survive without someone forcing order upon it. In a small ship far from any world, a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked together. They were responding to a distress call from a colony under attack by pirates. No one had ordered them to go. No one had forced them to help. They went because they chose to. That more than any treaty or agreement was humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not weapons or tactics or stubborn courage, but the simple, radical idea that beings could choose to help each other without being forced. It was messy. It was imperfect. Sometimes it failed, but it was theirs. Ambassador Chen Wei, now Secretary General of the Free World's Assembly, stood before the new chamber 1 year after humanity's refusal. Representatives from 200 species filled the seats, all equal, all free to speak. Today marks the anniversary of humanity's answer to the Council's tribute demand, she said. 1 year ago we said no. One word that changed everything. Some of you think we made things better. Some think we made them worse. Some are still deciding. She looked around the chamber at all the different faces, all the different peoples. I can't tell you if we made the right choice. I can only tell you that it was our choice to make. Yours to accept or reject. That freedom, the freedom to choose, to risk, to fail or succeed on your own terms, is what we fought for. She paused, then added, 1 year ago, we didn't know if anyone would stand with us. We didn't know if our message would resonate with anyone. We were prepared to stand alone. But you came. You witnessed. You chose to support the crazy humans who thought freedom was worth dying for. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.